Hi, soul friends. It's Tannaz Hosseinpour, and welcome back to another episode of the Minutes on Growth podcast. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Jocelyn Sandstrom. She is a success and fulfillment coach. She is a master NLP practitioner. She just does a lot, and I can't label it. So let's bring her on. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I love your podcast.
Well, yeah, I'm excited to have you. I have so many questions. So
Thank
let's
you.
dive right in. Let's talk about mindset. Like, what is having a growth mindset or an abundant mindset even mean? Like, since when? Because it's a topic that we're hearing so much about, like mindset, like have a growth mindset, have an abundant mindset. But where did this come from? What does it mean? How does it impact us? All of that.
Well, I think it's always been around. I think the people that created success used this mindset. It was just never labeled. And now because
Mhm,
it's come mainstream, we've labeled it with all these things. But to me, all it is to realize that we are the creators of our life.
mhm,
When we finally take ownership and say, actually, we create our reality with our thoughts. When we realize everything is happening for us, not to us, that it's every trigger, every block is an opportunity for us to up level, to take it to the next level. Every trigger is an opportunity for us to go back and reprogram it and remove the trigger or remove the belief that's causing that trigger.
mhm,
Because whenever I have a trigger, I stop, I do the reprogramming process, I find out, oh, it came from my childhood or from my mother's womb or from a past life or from my ancestral line, and then I shift it out, I shift that belief, I create a new belief. So now when that thing happens again, I don't have that trigger anymore because I've shifted it out completely. Instead of letting my past run me all the time, letting what happened to my ancestors become my future because I'm like, oh, in my family, this is just the way it is. And we just kind of like settle and we just say, this is how it is. In the past, this always happens to me. These things always happen to me. If we believe that it always happens to us, it will absolutely happen to us. Or if we believe that each time it happens, we shift, we grow, we transmute, we turn the negatives to positives, we harvest the learnings and then shift it, then when it happens again, it should never be the same outcome because you're a different person. It's like that saying, you can never step in the same river twice because the river always changes and always moves. It's us that hold us back in that limitation. And we believe and we project what the outcome is going to be based on our past. So
mhm,
then we get stuck there and we keep repeating it and getting frustrated and wondering why. The people that get out of it are the ones that cultivate that mindset that every single day, like, our automatic patterns, our automatic thoughts run when something happens. And, till this day, something will happen. And my paradigm or my conditioned mind will take over and I'll start to panic. And then I stop and I drop down into heart space and I'm like, no, there's nothing to panic. This is happening for me, not to me. I'm a master alchemist. I can transmute this into something better than I could have ever imagined because I'm resilient, because I have these mindset tools, because I'm going to stop, I'm going to do a process, I'm going to shift it out. And every time I do, it turns into something better than I could have imagined. So
mhm,
nothing is stopping me. I'm unstoppable. I'm only limited by my own mind limitations. And then when I realized that there's an abundance of everything in this world, and
mhm,
if I live in abundance, if I don't live in the lack, if I don't compete with other people for what exists, my energy modality that I use is based on quantum physics. So with quantum physics, we pull in from what doesn't exist. I like to believe like we're pulling it in. There's like infinite possibilities in the ethers, and we're pulling them in to our reality if we believe it. And that's what I truly believe evolution is. I believe that evolution comes from our desires because our desires are an echo from a future memory. In quantum physics, past, present, future is in the now.
mhm,
So our desires, I believe, is a future memory that's already happened that's showing us what's going to show up if we take aligned action every single day. And it's those desires that seem crazy or out there that evolved the world, like Disney and the Wright brothers, and anybody that's ever had a crazy dream that believed in it and just knew it in their soul and never gave up and just kept pushing and transmuting and shifting and pivoting and following the breadcrumbs. they evolved the world. And I
Mhm.
truly believe all of us evolve the world. So if we know that we are actually here to pull in from the ethers, to not take from what exists, to pull in from the ethers for me and then for us and for the world, that's what I call the, the abundance mindset. And then you don't have the fear that someone can take something from you, because no one can take anything from you that you don't give. Like,
Mhm.
no one can make you upset. It's our choice to react that way, or
Mhm.
to realize, it's not our stuff, right? So our mindset controls everything. And the more that I play with this, the more unbelievable things that just drop out of the blue all the time. And I know everybody's had these opportunities that drop out of the blue. Like, you'll be in alignment and synchronicities open, and all of a sudden, boom, an email drops in, right? And you're like, wow, I just got this opportunity out of the blue. Or like, you'll be having a day and everything is going well. By the end of it, you're like, it wouldn't surprise me if this happens too. And then that happens because you're in that mindset, you're in that frequency, you're in alignment, right? All we do in my programs, all I help my clients to do is end up being able to live there and to create more of that. So they're not just kind of like one-offs. It's like, okay, well, how do we get that to be our new reality? And how do we get to play with magic and quantum leaps every single day?
I love that. So many
Thanks.
golden nuggets of wisdom. And as you
Thank
were
you.
speaking, I was thinking of two things. One, how Dr. Wayne Dyer would say when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And then as you spoke about miracles, I thought of the book of miracles of a miracle is just a shift in perception. So a lot of like what we're experiencing is just the meaning that we're giving to those experiences. And so if I understood you correctly, like once we shift the way that we're thinking of it or we see it, then that new experience gives room to new opportunities and expansion and growth.
100,000,000%. And then if you take it a step further, then not only do you perceive it in a different way, but then you do the inner work to cultivate the knowing that
Mhm.
you are that version of you goal achieved. And the more that you can cultivate that knowing within you to own, like, let's say someone that's trying to write a book, right? To own the persona that they are an author because they've seen themselves selling their book. They've seen themselves on stage. So now when you step into that future memory of you, selling, being like on stage, or that book selling really well, and you feel the feelings of being that person, you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, this feels so good. Everyone, I wrote my book for my people and my people love it, because you don't have to write it for everybody. You're just writing it for your people, right? And then you feel those feelings, you pull those feelings and that frequency into your now. So you already feel that now, it's inevitable. When you write from that energy, you're going to write in a completely different energy, instead of you not sure if people are going to like this book, you not sure if you're really an author, or you have imposter syndrome and you're like, oh no, every roadblock, oh no, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, maybe it's not going to work. There's a completely different energy that you bring in that knowing, where you actually commit and say, that desire is for me, so it's written.
Mhm.
If I just every single day drop into heart space, do my soul evolution process. If anybody wants a soul evolution process, DM me. I use it every single day. I call it following the breadcrumbs, because when you know what your vision is and you drop in every single day and you say, okay, what's going to bring most value to my vision today? What's my soul's next step of evolution today? You follow the breadcrumbs, even if it doesn't make sense, knowing that the breadcrumbs are going to take you to that version of you goal achieved. So there's no doubt in your mind that that's going to happen. When you can cultivate that every single day from whichever mindset tools, energy tools, spiritual tools you can have, you'll get there so much faster. You'll quantum leap, because whenever there's a roadblock, it won't stop you. I use the metaphor of, imagine a kid on the way to Disneyland, and he knows he's going to Disneyland, and he's running to Disneyland. He trips and he falls. If he wasn't knowing that he was going to Disneyland, he might sit there and look for his mom and, want attention and maybe need a cuddle. But because he knows he's going to Disneyland, he just gets right back up and keeps running. And then he may trip over a rock, and he doesn't get pissed off at the rock. He doesn't get frustrated the rock's there. He knows he's going to Disneyland. So he just gets right back up and keeps going. because his knowing that he's getting to Disneyland is so strong that nothing in the way of getting there is going to stop him. And so if you know you're getting to this place and it's inevitable and there's no doubt in your mind because you desire it, it's already happened in quantum physics, then if something happens, you react completely different. You don't, it doesn't take you down. You don't get frustrated with it. You don't beat yourself up. You're like, this is just another rock on the way to Disneyland. I
Mhm.
just need to now watch out for the rocks. You know what I mean? Or harvest the learnings, transmute it, jump over the rocks next time, learn from it, pivot, follow the breadcrumbs every day with soul evolution, knowing that those breadcrumbs are taking me to Disneyland. It's inevitable. If I just show up just like your podcast, you said you started it in 2017 and it's so amazing and so huge. And that version of you, would it have ever dreamed that it would be the success it is today, right? But you just followed those breadcrumbs every single day. And then you get to look back and you're like, oh my gosh, like this was amazing.
Yeah,
So
so having the
yeah.
desire pull you in, right?
Yes.
Mm,
Having the desire pull you in is so much more powerful. It's called toward motivation versus away from motivation. The away from motivation that I need to prove myself because I'm not good enough, or I'm afraid that I have to do this or I'm not going to be able to pay my bills, or I have to do this or they're going to reject me. It can't fail. Like there's so much. Yes, away from motivation does help you to reach success. You're pushing, you're forcing, because without the external validation, you don't feel worthy, you don't feel deserving, you feel like you'll be rejected or abandoned. And that I think comes from childhood with how we
mhm,
were raised. Like if it was easy for us to, feel appreciated, or how our parents raised us or showed us validation, and then the schools as well, right? And that is a very strong motivator because growing up sometimes as kids, we only get validation when we do something amazing. So it's
mhm,
like we have to do this otherwise. And if we don't, they don't pay attention to us. So then we think, okay, well, we have to do this in order to get love. And we push ourselves that way. But when we do that, it leads to burnout. It leads to anxiety. It leads to like never being good enough. And we force ourselves past our threshold and we do it to please or prove. And that's so exhausting. All that energy is being drained every single day to please improve. So, what I do with my clients is to remove that belief that you have to please or prove anyone, to know that you are amazing and you're perfect and you bring so much value just by being here in this world.
mhm,
Because when I think about my grandma who passed and I think about like, what do I love about her the most? Like, what do I miss about her the most? And it's not anything she says, it's not anything she does. I just want to sit next to her. I just want to be in her presence. I just want to hold her. And she doesn't have to do anything. And that's the same with us. Think about the people that love us. Like they just want to be in our energy, like in our presence. So we bring so much value just by being here.
mhm,
And then we realize we manifested this incredible life that we're living right now. There's a younger version of us that dreamed this up. So we're more than worthy. We're more than valuable the way we are. So now we get to just be in love with our life and create our next level because we have these desires that inspire us versus this lion that's chasing us and making us do things and exhaust us. So when you create from that energy, you can enjoy it. You realize this is your timeline. There's no deadline. This is your life. You get to create the amount of success in the time that it gets to. There's no finish line. It's a marathon for the rest of your life because it's evolution over a lifetime. And so you don't get burnt out. You can tune in and be like, oh, my body needs rest today because you are giving yourself permission instead of the world giving you permission. And I think so many of us are like children in adults' bodies,
mhm,
always looking for, am I doing it right? Like, am I on the right track? Do I have permission to do this? Instead of knowing that there's that rite of passage from childhood and adolescence into adulthood. And when we are adults, it's our lives now. We get to take control. We get to decide, and we get, as long as we love our life and we have enough to, live off of, then we get to create at our own speed. And it's just so much more fun
mhm.
and enjoyable, and you have more energy than ever before, I think.
Yeah. So powerful. You answered so I had a question in mind, but you answered it.
Oh, sorry.
So that's great. I was going to ask you, like, how do we develop this like certainty within us that we are valuable, that we are worthy just as we are? But you answered it. So perfect.
Well, it's that, but then also you have to do the stuff every single day. You
Mhm.
know, like you have to reprogram. You have to, play with the infinite potentiality of your dreams. Like one day, imagine if, like these things happen. I'm sorry. Imagine if like these things happen and one day we'll be here, or these things, and you dream big. Like one of the things we do in the programs at the very beginning is open up people's dreaming again, because we were told as kids to stop daydreaming, get your head
Mhm.
out of the clouds, be realistic, that's not going to make you money, all of these things. And so we stop and we limit ourselves. And once we take the limitation of money out of the picture, that money, like the amount of money isn't going to control our dreams and desires, then we can dream all these things, knowing that once we take that, money's just energy. Money just flows to us when we're in alignment. It's not around these things. Like all those magical opportunities that showed up into my life when I was taking aligned action and when I was, opening up synchronicity, they were opportunities that dropped in out of the blue from money that just came from the ethers. And that's where it comes from. But we were taught that the only money you're going to receive is from your job. And so you
Mhm.
get a job and you stay in that job for the rest of your life. But you can receive money in so many ways, and so many opportunities. And when we grow up, or in this day and age, it's not just one job for
Mhm.
your whole life. Like, nowadays we're like bouncing from here and bouncing from there. And we're just evolving and shifting so fast. And that's what makes life so beautiful. So when we lean into it, like when I teach my son manifestation, or when I teach him about money, I teach him, yes, you can receive money from your chores, and that would be your job and your work. But you can also receive money and opportunities from like manifestations, right? Like if you're like, oh, one day imagine if we have this and that, and then all of a sudden you get comped something, you know what I mean? Or an opportunity comes in. Like one thing that really cemented this in my mind is when I'm going for my goals, I had to really tune into why I wanted those goals. What did I
Mhm.
think these goals were going to bring to me? And it was that it was going to bring me freedom, and it was gonna like help me to set me free from external stuff. So there was one day where everything went wrong. And like from the morning that I woke up, I was late, and then this went wrong. And then there was stuff that happened that was really like, so basically I bought a lens, a camera lens for $2,500, and they were supposed to ship it to my house. It never arrived. So I called Best Buy and they said, oh no, on our records, it shows that you picked up the lens when you bought it. And so we have nothing that we're shipping to you. You've already got the lens. And I said, what? And they said, you have to, we can't help you here. You're going to have to go down to the shop and find the person that sold it to you to try and resolve it. And the old me would have freaked out and been like, what? I'm out a $2,500 lens. But I was like, no, nothing's going to change. Nothing is going to take my freedom. This is all happening for me, not to me. Possibly for me to practice that nothing can take my freedom. Possibly for me to practice that I can shift my reality. So I was like, yep, imagine if I get down there and there's no lines. I walk straight through because I had a crazy busy day. So I was afraid I wouldn't even be able to make it. And I was like, imagine if I just walk in and there's no lines and I pop right in and they're like, oh yeah, no problem. Here you go. And I held that image in my body, in my mind. And I knew that it could happen. And if it didn't, it doesn't matter because I'd transmute it. I'd find a way to make it work because everything's happening for me, not to me, because the universe got my back. And it turned out that's what happened. I went in, the line was long, and then all of a sudden another line opened, took people away. So the line ended up becoming short. And they said, sorry about that, we'll send you a new one. And it was so easy. But then the whole day was going like that. And then the end of the day, I just started laughing about it. I was like, that's whatever. This has happened again. I'll transmute it. I get home and my son says, let's go check the mail. And he goes into the mailbox and he comes out and there's a letter from the electric company. And I'm like, oh, great, another bill. Like, this is what it is. And I was like, nope, that's not my reality. It doesn't matter. I'll transmute it. It doesn't matter. I open it up and it was a check for $7,200 that they were giving us as some kind of reimbursement for something that I have no idea what it was. So that's what I mean. Like money doesn't always have to come from the predictable way. It can come and drop in from all these places once you know that you can pull it in. Once you
Mhm.
know that like magical, like you can get these opportunities that just drop in, you can play with all of it. And then it becomes like, it just becomes so much fun.
Completely agree with you. There's been so many instances in my life where, like exactly said, money came out of like thin air, and I'm like, oh,
Yes.
like how is that even possible? But you said something, and I would love for us to dive deeper into it. You said, holding that vision in my body and like having that element of certainty. And one thing that I've noticed in kind of having this podcast since 2017 and like all the work that I do with my own clients is, what if that vision doesn't feel safe in the body because it's so unknown? So, for someone who, for example, was raised in an environment where money was extremely scarce, or even like in an abusive household where love is so unfamiliar, like they don't even know what healthy relationship looks like. So, for them, even visualizing it feels so, I don't even know. It's like not for people like me. Like, I'm not lucky enough. I wasn't born this way, or I don't have, all the reasons in the book of why it can't work for me, but it can work for everyone else. How can we create a sense of safety in the body so that we're actually able to hold this grander 5D vision?
Well, that's a well, the process I use, I teach in my programs, and it's an
Mhm,
actual reprogramming process. So it's like it's an NLP process where we go
mhm,
back to the very first moment that you have that belief, especially removing ancestral patterns. So whenever you have that belief and you have that anxiety, finding whatever tool that's going to help you to reprogram, but you've got to reprogram it, right? It's it's if you can think it, but everything in your being is
yeah,
telling you the opposite, right? So that's why for me, the first thing that we do in the program, in my programs, is teach you this reprogramming process. So now when you're doing it, you get to anytime your goal scares you, you get to stop, and you get to reprogram it, and you get to see why. I used to never be the lucky one, and or I believed that I wasn't, because I wouldn't win things and all these things. But one day I sat there and I reprogrammed being the lucky one, and that things get to be easy, because even though I wanted them to be easy, through the reprogramming process, I discovered that I didn't, because I always had to prove to people that it wasn't easy. Because if it came easy to me, that means that I didn't work for it, that I didn't deserve it, because that was the paradigm that I grew up in. So when I was doing the reprogramming process, I was like, oh, okay, I don't need that anymore. Like, I don't care whether people think that I worked for it or not. I want to just be the person that things are easy, because I do the, behind the scenes work, and it doesn't matter what people think. It matters what it feels like inside. And
mhm,
as long as I know, that's all that matters. So now I get to be the one that things just flow. And before, I felt guilty for them flowing as well, because if it's flowing for me and not for them, again, I reprogrammed it. So there's a process that I use. So when whoever you are, looking for whatever that reprogramming process is,
mhm,
for you, you just need to find that tool that's going to help you. You can reframe it, but to me, like reframing, if you keep reframing it every single time, it will work. It just takes a little bit more time. That's why my programs are all about quantum leaping. It's because I want to get it done, and I want to get it done fast and move on to the next thing. But you could reframe it every single day. You could say, well, it happened to this person, so it could happen to me, right? Or you could look for people that inspire you, that things are easy, to be like, well, actually, this person inspires me and it's easy. So if they can do it, I can do it. Like you can do that every single day. And if you're super committed to it, it will work. It's inevitable, because you can shift your beliefs by catching yourself every single day.
mhm.
I just like to do it faster and move on to the next thing, right? But once you shift that out, so anyways, when I reprogrammed myself for that, I went home and my friend messaged me and she said, "Oh, you just won a brand immersion from your mentor." And I said, "What? There's no draw today. Someone won that already." And she said, "No, there was another draw today and you won." And that was just from me reprogramming myself to be the lucky one, to realize that I get to live in the too good to be true reality because I cultivated that reality. I reprogrammed that reality into it. I took that belief on just as easily as we took on our parents' beliefs or the school's belief or society's belief. We can easily say, that's not my belief. I don't believe that anymore. This is my belief. Yes, things are going to trigger you. And yes, it doesn't feel safe sometimes to do that. But you could even possibly use my soul evolution process to discover, why doesn't it feel safe? That could be something that you could try, is you could drop down into heart space and ask your soul, well, why doesn't this feel safe? And because all the answers are within us, and
Mhm.
a memory might pop up, and then you're just going to have to, tell yourself, you're going to have to do a lot of self-talk, a lot of journaling, and all of these things. um, it might take a little bit longer, but if you're committed, you should be able to shift it.
So as we're talking about this journey from like point A to point B, of course, point B is so exciting and we want to get there. But what's the mindset that you feel we need to have during the process of A to B?
So that's the mindset of, I am amazing. I've already manifested the most incredible life, so I get to enjoy this life. I get to, before I moved into this house, I would drive by and envision my son being here and dreaming and feeling those feelings. And so now that when I first moved in, I took it for granted. Like at first I was like, this is awesome. And then you're on to the next thing. But now it's like, I'm just so grateful. I remember who I was when I drove by this house, dreaming about being in here with my son. So every day, I have deep gratitude for just being in this house. Also, then knowing I get to create more. I get to create another house, but nothing's wrong with this house. Sometimes we make it wrong because we've got it already. We normalize it, and then it looks like lack because it's not what we want.
Mhm.
When I drive my minivan, it's like I don't know why people have this dream, but I had this dream of having a minivan to drive my son around, right? So when I drive it with that gratitude of who I was, that I dreamed of having this thing. Or even your phone, like if you take your phone for granted, there's always a new iPhone coming out and you want the next one, and you don't appreciate it unless you lose it. And then you get it back and you're like, oh my gosh, I love my phone. You know what I mean? So how do you live in that deep gratitude every single day for this incredible life? How do you make this life that you have every day as magical as possible? And then know that you're creating from that space, knowing that you created this, so you get to create that next one. Not that you have to get there in order to feel fulfilled or successful, because you already are. So
Mhm.
when you create from that energy, already it's different. Then you have to hold the void. Then you have to know that, again, I say that your desires are your future memory. You have to own that you are that version of you. This reality just has to catch up to it. You have to then every single day I drop into heart space and I do the soul evolution process. So I use it for my grand visions, but I also use it for my daily visions. So every day, the night before I go to sleep, I'll drop down and I'll be like, what's my next step of evolution for tomorrow? What's going to bring most value to my vision, not just to my business, because I want to build wealth, which is relationships, business, health, self-care, not just money, right? So I'm like, what's going to bring the most value to my vision? And then I schedule my day, and then I wake up that morning and I tune back in to see if that's still in alignment or if something shifted. So every day for me is different because I just tune into my soul and I follow the breadcrumbs that my soul tells me every single day. And I know that if I do that, I will get here. Before, I had doubts that I would get here if I did that. Now I don't. Now I know I'm just holding the void. So if something doesn't go my way, I know that if I just hold that void and say, no, this is happening, I know it's coming. And if it doesn't, I'll transmute it because I'm going to turn it into something better than I could have ever imagined. Then you hold that space, you can hold that frequency more as you go through the day, because we spend so much time doubting whether we could do it, and so much energy that that's what slows down the process. But if you can hold that void saying, no, this is inevitable. I put it into Google Maps, and now every single day I just have to go into heart space and ask my soul to turn left, to turn right, to go straight, knowing that the directions are going to get me there. Sorry.
No way.
Knowing that the directions are going to get me there, I will get there so much faster because I'm not going to waste time doubting whether this is going to work. I'm not going to waste time, being afraid because I'm going to stop. I'm going to do a reprogramming process. I'm going to shift it out because I don't have time for the drama anymore because I'm living my dream life. I don't have, like I don't need to do that. And if you know that you can hold that void, you can hold disappointment, your next level of success is directly related to the amount of void that you can hold and the amount of disappointment that you can hold and the amount that you know that you're resilient and you can transmute it. If
Mm.
you know all of that, then there's a fear that might come out that happens, but hey, I have this tool. So that's why I highly recommend people learning tools more than just reframing. Like if you have the soul evolution process, if you have the reprogramming process, if you have, I know some people do EFT, I don't do that, but I use my Millennium method, which is quantum physics based. I have all these tools. So I know that if something happens, I can pull one of these tools out and I
Mhm.
can transmute it. If you don't have those tools, there's a lot of doubt, because how are you going to get through it? I don't want to rely on somebody else to try and help me to fix it. If I know that I have these tools within me, I'm unstoppable. If I remember all the times that I shifted these things out, and if this fear scenario happens, I'll be able to transmute it to something even more powerful than ever before. Then I can take the crazy leaps. Then I can just keep going forward running to Disneyland no matter how many rocks are in my way because I know I'm getting there. And so when you can do that, you quantum leap it. When you are in alignment and you are doing what your soul is asking you to do, not what your conditioned mind and influences are asking you to do, when you're doing it for your soul's, for your own validation, like your own feeling inside versus getting someone else's validation, you're in alignment, you're in synchronicity, and the universe knows that you got it. So they'll drop in the magic emails, they'll drop in the magic opportunities, or you ran into this person, or this thing just showed up out of the blue, or you'll receive a check for, whatever it is, right? But you just have to know that this is possible. Like I imagine now, whatever belief that helps you to do it. I imagine, the Truman Show?
No, actually.
Wait, so the Truman Show was with Jim Carrey, and he was in a reality TV show. He didn't know that he was born, and they made a whole world around him. And then this show basically controlled his life to make it a reality show. So when he tried to escape, and they saw he was escaping, they were like, "Oh no, he's going that way. Throw in this actor, block him, make him go this way," right? And so they were controlling him in those things. But the way I see my world now is like the universe got my back. The universe is like, this is my movie. And so I get to decide what I want to do. So, like, I know that this is what I want. And I cultivate the belief in knowing that it's for me. And I do the hard stuff. I take aligned action every single day. I magnetize my energy and I have all these tools and whatever it might be, and I can hold it. I hold the void and I hold the pain and I hold the disappointment. So the universe is like, okay, awesome. Throw in this actor, throw in that one. And I have this belief that's so strong that that's going to happen now because I've cultivated it for so long. So I can speed up the process of it. And
Mm.
if you have that belief and like, yeah, okay, I have this. And now I just have to like own it in my body and take that aligned action, then the universe is going to drop those things into my life, and they're going to throw that actor in and this actor in. And I also have this belief that we all chose a movie to come here to earth to feel. For there's no, I don't think there's a point. I think the point is to experience. So I believe that no matter what happens, it's exactly as it's meant to be. It's not
Mm.
a failure. It's not a success. I'm not a good person or a bad person. It's just here for me to experience it. And so if you believe that, you don't feel like you're rushing to get to some place to to achieve something. Like I don't achieve anymore, I experience. And it's a completely different energy if you just take on these beliefs. And these beliefs aren't for everybody. But these are the beliefs that helped me. So you just have to discover, what are the beliefs that help you to feel unstoppable? What
Mm,
are the beliefs that make you believe that you're amazing and perfect just the way you are and you get to create more so that every day feels fun and magical? And what beliefs do you have to put in that you believe you have this paintbrush and you can paint your reality, and that the universe has your back because they're going to throw in an actor here, or a plot twist there? What beliefs do you have to believe that that desire is already happened? Like if you
mm,
really truly believe that that desire is a future echo from your future, how can you not think it's going to not happen? Like how
right.
can you doubt it if you truly believe that in your core? So strengthening that, because everything is a belief, everything is a story. Anyways, there's no truth. Your bad stories that you can't do it are just the same, just as much a lie as the stories that you can do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if you just every single day realize that, you can shift so fast and you can fall in love with your life and you can create more. The hard part is holding that void of faith without evidence, of like the results aren't showing up, but knowing that that doesn't matter because the
Mhm,
results catch up with us. You just show up every single day like you did your podcast,
mhm,
and now look at what it's become. If you just do that every single day. I saw this post on social media about a billionaire that turned 40 and he didn't know what to do for his 40th birthday. And so he didn't know what to get or anything because he has everything. So he decided, you know what? I think I'm going to take up jogging. So because I've been stressed out with my health, I should probably start taking care of my health. So he started jogging, and then he couldn't make it very far because he was smoking. So he's like, okay, I guess I have to stop smoking so that I could continue jogging. So then he quit smoking and he continued jogging. And then he's like, okay, I want to take it to the next level. Maybe I should look at nutrition. So he started looking at nutrition and he started applying it. And then he became so passionate about it, he started to shift his business over to a holistic business. And then he created a hugely successful, multi-million billion dollar holistic business. But it started from one thing of jogging. Like, just, I'm going to jog today,
wow.
and I'm going to, then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. So you don't have to like know, like you don't have to think that, like, have these all limited. Just follow the breadcrumbs every single day and know that the life that's waiting for you is more incredible than you could have ever imagined, and that you get to quantum leap, and that you get to, manifest a lot faster, like quantum manifestation, I call it, right? And then knowing that, like, sometimes it's going to turn into something you could have never imagined.
Mhm,
And that's the beauty of it. We don't have to figure it out. If you have to try and figure out the how, when you're dreaming, don't ever try and figure out the how. If you're dreaming like the big dreams that are seem unattainable, you don't have to figure out the how. You just need to let the universe figure out the how, and you follow the breadcrumbs every day with your soul evolution process.
mm,
Because that happened to me. Like I had a dream, I had a vision that I wanted to be on this one stage and I didn't know how to get there. But I was like, imagine if this happens, and I'll get there. So every day I'll follow the breadcrumbs. And I was doing a ton of inner work. I wasn't even doing a lot of like strategy work at the time. And I did the inner work, and then all of a sudden, boom, this opportunity dropped right in. I didn't have to contact anybody. I met the person and we started talking, and he said, send me a proposal. I did. And then all of a sudden I was on that stage. And it was, and I was like, like I can't even make this stuff up. You know what I mean? So if you know that, if you dream it and you follow aligned action every single day, you don't have to figure out the how, because the how is always going to show up in ways that you could have never imagined.
mhm,
Like I knew I wanted to go back to Hong Kong this year. I didn't know how. And because we have all these other trips. And so I didn't have like, a reason or whatever these things might be. And I was like, you know what? I feel a calling for it though. So I'm just going to imagine if myself there. And it could be this year, but if not, well, it'll be next year, but it's going to happen. And then within a month or two, all of a sudden my husband gets an email opportunity about going there to work, and we end up flying. And I was like, how did this even happen? Like this is the magic that I'm talking about. Like when you cultivate that within and you hold that frequency, because my friend, I was messaging her on Instagram and I was like, yeah, I'll probably be there the end of this year. No idea how I would, how or why or what reason, because we have so many other trips planned. But I just was like, no, this is happening. And then boom, I was thinking end of this year and it happened last month.
Mhm.
So
That
if you just
knowing within
play
you.
with it, yeah, but you cultivate that knowing, because I could have easily had doubt and been like, oh no, but this is not going to happen. And how am I going to do this trip and fit this in and all, like I could have easily gone down that road. But I was like, no, it's coming. I had a hit, so I know it's coming. So
Mhm.
I'm just going to hold the void. And the day before we got the news about this job, we had turned in my son's passport to get it renewed. So he didn't have a passport and it wasn't going to be done in time for us to fly for the trip. But I said, no, this is happening. And whether it's this trip or another trip, something's going to happen. So I did my energy work. I did my Millennium Method on it. I did the mindset work that this could absolutely happen, because in the past, I had a situation with my husband's visa and I was able to download it with Millennium Method, clear it, and him to get his visa the next day and fly. So I was like, it happened that time. I could do it again. It's possible. If it doesn't, I'm fine, because I'll make it happen again in the future, but it could absolutely be this time. And then by the time before the trip happened, he ended up getting both his passports, his Canadian and his US passport. So we had two passports to be able to travel. But like that's like you just have to hold the void, because if something like that happens in the past, it would have taken me out and I've been like, oh well, I guess he's going by himself and I guess there'll be another trip. And there was other obstacles along the way that made it almost not happen. But I just kept holding the void and holding the void and holding the void, knowing that if it's not this trip, it's going to be another, but it could be this trip. And
Mhm.
then boom, all those things happened. If you do that every single day, and I'm not saying it's easy, like when I say things get to be easy, like things get to be magical, it's because you have the skills and tools to transmute it.
Mhm.
But you have to do the work. You can't just be like, I hope this would work out. You know what I mean? Like it has to
Yeah.
be like a daily, like I hold this void and I suck all my energy in and I hold this void. This is happening. And if it doesn't, I'm going to transmute it to something better. But, like you got to pull that energy in and feel it in your body.
Right. And this devotion to self, devotion to the vision, to the energy of, the desire.
Yes, and really just owning and knowing that it's all in you.
Mhm.
All the answers, all the skills, all the tools are in you. And we just, join programs and teachers and things to help us ignite what's already within us.
Yeah. The reminder.
And that's,
Mhm.
yes. And it's just like we just need that catalyst. And we're like, oh my gosh, and then we just feel more and more powerful. The more power you feel, the more you lean back in that power, the more it's inevitable that it's going to happen faster. And then you just
Mhm.
quantum leap and quantum leap and quantum leap. And then and then you also have to create the beliefs that life just keeps getting better,
Better.
because otherwise in the past I also had this thing that, oh, something good would happen and I was afraid when something good happened, because something bad would always happen after. So my body didn't feel safe with things being good. So I get to reprogram that as well, to know that, hey, my reality, it could keep getting better. Or I looked for examples of people that it did keep getting better for. And I'm like, well, I'm in their frequency, I'm in their morphic field. So if they
Mhm.
can do it, I can do it, right? And then also, I forgot, I lost the train of thought of the other tip that I was going to give. But yeah, just,
Um,
yes, that's it. You just have to look for examples of the 4-minute mile. So you remember before the 4-minute mile, everyone was trying to break the
yeah.
4-minute mile and no one could. The minute one person did, everybody did.
Yeah.
So we go first and they go first to show it's possible. Once they do, they've opened the portal for
Yeah.
us. That's the evolution. And so
Mhm.
we get to be that portal for other people. When you are going to evolve, I think, in society, that piece needs to be shifted, because when we're children, we were formed. We were like, okay, you have to fit into this box. Not all of us are book smart. Not all of us can sit for a test and remember everything. Some of us know everything. We sit for a test, we panic and we forget everything, right? And then
Mhm.
there's something wrong with us, all these things. So we're fit into this box and we're trying to be like everybody else. We were raised to be like everybody else. We were compared as children. Why can't you be like so and so? Or this person's doing it, all of these things, right? But when you're evolving the world, when you're doing the things that are going to evolve, it's not going to make sense. You're going to
Yeah.
do things. Your soul's going to say, do this. And everyone's going to say, you're crazy. But your soul's like, no, because in order to evolve something, it has to be different than everything else. So, how do you develop the inner power to be okay being different, to know, to trust, to cultivate that relationship with your soul and yourself and your true self and your higher self? To be like, oh, my soul's telling me this, so I'm going to do it. It looks crazy. People are going to judge me, but I don't care because I know where I'm going and I'm evolving the world. And evolving the world does not look like everybody else because if I
Mhm.
do what everybody else is doing, I'm going to get more of that. But I'm
Mhm.
doing something different. So, how do you cultivate that and be like, and own that and be like, I am the innovator. I am the unconventional one. I am the one that lives outside of the box and I am strong enough to hold their judgment and their opinions because I know where I'm going and that's all that matters. And I'm not going to let them distract me from where I'm going because I know this. Like Disney, he got rejected 33 times from the
Yeah.
bank before he got accepted, or Edison, or any of them, right? If they had cared what other people thought, it wouldn't have worked. They would have given up if they didn't have that knowing. So, how do you cultivate that and compound the good meaning and remove any of the bad meaning? Like
Mhm.
there's no bad meaning. If it doesn't mean something good, it's just a rock on the way to where you're going. So like if I have an obstacle come up or a crisis that we used to call crises, I used to call crises. Now I look at them as up leveling. I'm like, it's just a rock. I'm getting there. This is just a rock. The universe is just helping me to practice to become stronger so I can hold more, so I can call in my next level.
Mm, I love that. I love that. And as you were speaking, I was like thinking of like my own journey of like I studied law and then I was like, guess
Oh,
what,
wow.
parents? I'm not going to be practicing. And they're like, you just studied 7 years. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to go into like coaching. And then I ended up going to therapy. So
Oh my
psychotherapy. So I
God.
was like, it definitely was not the mold that I was intended for as a child.
But you had a knowing and
Yeah.
you cultivated that stronger than what your parents and anybody said.
Mhm.
And that was, I mean, like that courage. And now look what you've created. And that
Yeah.
younger version of you is just so grateful for your
Yes, that
resilience.
courage. That courage is huge. I feel like to just be like, you know what, I'm comfortable. First of all, I'm comfortable not knowing. Like for me in that moment, I was comfortable not knowing what the future held, but I was also comfortable letting go of what I thought my future would look like. So holding that like duality of I know what I don't want, but I also don't know what I do want, but I'm just going to trust it day by day. And then kind of that the jogging analogy I thought was so powerful because so many times, especially if you've been conditioned to think that you're not even worthy of dreams and desires. Like I saw this video on social media once where they asked this child, like, what are your dreams? And he responded, what is a dream? And I thought to myself, like, for some people, that doesn't even exist in their vocabulary. So because of that, they don't even think they should be having a dream. But yet, if and you were answering all my questions, it's like you're a mind reader. But like,
I
you know,
think we're just
yeah,
synchronized.
I was like, great. I can just sit back and listen because she's answering them.
Oh, thank
But really that like trusting of okay, day by day, whatever shows up, I'm gonna know that it's for my highest good. And then it leads you to somewhere and you're like, oh, like this is where I was being led to. Like I never even thought about it. And being
And
okay with
also,
that.
where it's leading you, but it doesn't even matter where it's leading you. If you
Hmm.
make this day so magical, it doesn't matter where it's leading
Right.
because every day is magical. Like every day is like, oh, like I'll sit with my son and he likes to play make believe, and I'm really not a good make believe. I would rather do arts and crafts. And so I'll get frustrated and it'll drain my energy. But then I'm like, no, like I dreamt of him my whole life. I've had 5 miscarriages. Like he is the most amazing miracle ever. I get to sit here with him and play make believe.
Mhm.
And for nothing other than just to be here with him in this. Not because I have to do this or get to this goal or all these things. Like I just get to make this day magical by spending this moment with my son. And to me, that's a win. And to
Mhm.
me, that means today was amazing because I got to do this. Because soon he's going to have his own friends and he's not going to want to play with me. And then he's going to be out of the house. So, how do I make moments in my day? How do I slow down and make these moments so magical that it's not about getting to where I need to get? It's about the journey of getting there, knowing that I'm going to get to these places. It's inevitable, but I get to enjoy the entire process along the way because 90% of our life is the journey to getting to the top of the mountain. And you get to the top of the mountain, you're like, "Ooh, that was awesome." And then you're like, okay, now what? I don't want to just hang out here on the top of the mountain. This is boring. Let me go and climb another mountain, right? But if the whole way up that mountain, you're just like, I just need to get to this top and you focus on it, like this whole time is just a blur, like that movie Click, like it's like fast forwarding through all these things. Okay, my life's done. Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
There is no point. It's those everyday simple moments. Like when I take videos of of things, I take videos of us just being at home doing the simple things because those are the things when I think back on my childhood, the biggest memories are not Disneyland and all these things. It's like my mom holding me outside in the rain singing to me. Like those are the things that I remember. And there's also like a process I take people through about like stepping into the version of you that I learned from one of my mentors where you see your life, right? And you look through your life and you realize what was actually important. And it's not the stuff that we think, it's the everyday magic. And everyone says that all the time, but yet we don't live that way. I mean, but you can if you remind yourself every single day. And if you know that you can make every moment magical and then something bad, so-called bad happens, it doesn't bother you so much because you're like, oh, well, that happened, but what can I do to make this day memorable after that? Or your everything is so good and one little thing happens, you're like, ah, whatever, I just keep going because every day you're like, how do I make this magical? How do I make this magical? And it's just an embodiment. So it's not even a trying anymore. It's just, this is who I am.
Yes.
And I get to do this every single day. So it's not exhausting. It's actually energizing if
Mhm.
you and the more you do it, the more it just becomes your new natural and your new
Mhm.
automatic thoughts, and you've overridden your old automatic thoughts.
Right. I love that. So like being more like the more intentional we are with our magic and our joy, it kind of like overrides the old autopilot, and our new autopilot is just magical and joy.
Yes. And like I had a shift one day where I was like, I need to start living my life like a Japanese tea ceremony. Like, in the Japanese tea ceremony, they pour the tea with like everything is like a process and it's like this deep reverence to what they're doing in the moments for this gratitude that they're here, they're alive. Like this is, an opportunity. Even the bad things are like each time a bad thing happens to me now, it's like, okay, I know something big's coming. Before it was like, oh no, I'm afraid I'm not going to survive. What's wrong with me? What did I do wrong to throw me out of synchronicity? Now it's like, ooh, there's something going on. I just need to do the work and this next chapter is going to open for me. So the universe is telling me I'm ready for the next chapter. And
Mhm.
it's a complete, and then it's just like every day I play. I know I'm going to get to those goals, but before I was just always so focused on that goal by this date, by that, and it stressed me out and it made me feel not good enough and I burnt out. And now it's just like, today I get to play. What am I playing today?
Making love to your day, like making love
Yes.
to
Oh my gosh, I
every
love that.
moment.
I love that.
Yeah. So, oh my God, we can talk forever.
Sorry.
But I love it. I just love the way you phrase it all and you kind of like allow it all to flow through you with so much great grace and ease. So I love that question. You brought it up a couple of times, and I want the audience to have access to it. The soul evolution activation. How can we get access to it? Like, what's your Instagram DMs handle so we can all DM you?
Yeah. It's Jocelyn Sandstrom.
Okay,
And
I'll
then
put
just
in the
DM
show
me and
notes.
I'll send it to you. And I always do posts of different tips and, like anything that comes up. I do quantum energy sessions on there for free as well too, so you can tune into that and see what you need for that week. And I kind of cover different topics and stuff. So I like to put out as much content to just help be a catalyst for what's already in you. Like if you
Mhm.
see it, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm seeing it for a reason. There's something in here that needs to, that I need to remember or like, know within me. And it's always stuff you already know. That's a crazy thing. Like you're always like, oh, I was thinking that. And then it's like this. And then I don't know why, as humans, we need an outside thing to like validate that
Mhm.
what we were thinking was like,
Like, yeah.
yeah. But then eventually, when you start recognizing that you already knew it before, you're like, oh, yeah, I knew that, but I didn't own it. Then you can trust that intuition more and more and more. Because in the beginning, I always had to ask someone to validate it for me until I realized I actually thought that first. And then this happened. And I was like, oh, wow. So actually, I do know something.
Mhm.
And then I cultivated that more and more and more. So I just like my page to be a catalyst for what you already know.
I love that. I'll put your page on the show notes. How can we connect with you like further? Like, is there a website?
Yes, so I have my website, but to me, websites are so stagnant. Like I have
Mhm.
my website just so people can see the program name and the
Mhm.
pricing. Everything else is on my social media
Okay.
because everything, if you really want to know if we're a connection, you're gonna hear me talk. Something's gonna spark something, and you're like, okay, yeah, this is it. I'm ready for that. Whatever, like something's gonna hit. So the website's there with, just the logistical things, but the life is in the social media. And also if there's a program and you're not sure, I also do discovery calls so people can DM me and do a discovery call to see, oh, which program might be a fit for me and where do I go from here and see if it even is a fit or whatever that might be. But I love my social media because it's just like a living and everything that's on there is also what we're shifting because we're shifting so fast as a collective.
Yeah.
So fast. Like things are happening so fast. I would not be able to update my website. I'd be updating my website all the time versus just like letting the living, shifts and collective shifts come through us in our social media is so much more powerful. Just like your podcasts.
Mhm.
Like your podcast, every time you do another podcast, it's like you're bringing in the next evolution and the
Yeah.
next shift to us. And so we're like growing with you. And it's thank you for doing that. Your podcasts are amazing.
Thank you. Well, it's been such a pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your insights with us. And I will put everything on the show notes so people can connect with you and they can learn more from you and you can remind them of all the nuggets of wisdom that is within them waiting to be activated. So,
Oh, thank you so much. It's been such an honor. I'm
one,
wishing you an amazing day.
thank you. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Speak soon.